back, S'mores, to Beyond the Campfire, where today we will be diving once again into the mysteries of the United States government and the terrors and atrocities they have committed upon us innocent people. That's right. Today on Beyond the Campfire, we are going to be covering a conspiracy theory. Sometimes when we cover conspiracy theories, we try to stick away from the U.S. government because, I like to keep my brain intact for what little brain I do have. Um, but yeah, we're going to be uncovering their mysteries. If you're new here, welcome. If you can find us on YouTube and Spotify, obviously you're on one of them listening to us. If you're on Spotify and you want to see our faces, we're on YouTube. If you want to keep up with the latest news of us, we are on Twitter and Instagram at Beyond Campfire. And yeah, Steven, are they spraying the skies?
They have indeed sprayed the skies before. Whether they are still doing that, well, that is something we'll talk about a little bit today. But yeah, today we are talking about a phenomenon known as cloud seeding. And with cloud seeding, there is definitely government involvement, government things going on. So we're going to be talking about all of those things about that, right? So with that, let's get a setting. It's the 1960s. U.S. government is high up on the Vietnam War. Okay,
Hoorah!
right? So U.S. government's like, hey, there's some commies in Vietnam. We don't like that, so we're gonna send tens of thousands, actually hundred. How many people did we send to Vietnam? It was a lot, actually.
There's no telling, man. I can tell you what, my uncle was over there. That's for sure.
Yeah, right. So we're like,
And
yeah,
I heard the Lorax was in Vietnam too, and he said I speak for the trees, and for some reason they're speaking Vietnamese.
yeah, yeah. So wow. Okay, so about 2.7 million Americans served in Vietnam. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's the 1960s, late 1960s, early 1970s, and the U.S. is like, yeah, we don't like those commies. They're taking over Vietnam, so we're gonna send 2.7 of our young men to go and die over there, right? So
Yep, domino effect.
yeah,
If
yeah,
Vietnam falls, for some reason, if a country in Asia falls, somehow we're all going to become communists. The math ain't mathing.
yeah. If you can't tell, I'm very anti-Vietnam. Mr. Will here is also very anti-Vietnam. We'll try not to get too political, but
Yeah.
anyway, that's the setting, right? So
Well, I
Vietnam,
have, I have personal reasons for the reason why I'm kind of against Vietnam because it really screwed up my uncle. But
for sure, it screwed up a
you know,
lot of, right? So anyway, without getting into all that stuff. Not that it's not important, but that's not why you listen to our podcast. Yeah, the U.S. government is shipping people to Vietnam. We're like, we want to fight this war, and we're like, how could we fight this war better, right? We're gassing them, right? Agent Orange. We're bombing them. We're shooting them. But dang, we're still not getting these commies, right? There's still a bunch of
dang
them
man.
out in the jungle. It's like, what if we controlled the weather?
Oh boy.
Is this science fiction? Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So, starting in the 1950s, um, actually, let me look up who. I saw it earlier. Who invented cloud seeding? Uh, 1946. Yeah, Vincent Schaefer. So, cloud seeding was invented in 1946 by American chemist Vincent Schaefer at General Electric Research Laboratory in New York. Uh, what he did is he dropped crushed dry ice into supercooled clouds that triggered ice crystal formations. And it was a process that made it a lot more likely for it to either snow or rain, right? So he
So
produced,
what you're telling me is the guy who built washing machines thought it'd be cool to make it rain.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly. And when we say make it rain, I'm not talking about someone going to the local strip club and tossing out their dollar bills, right? We're talking about actual rain. The water that falls from the sky. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Not men, rain,
Bet you weren't expecting us
water.
there, were you, Will? So
No, I listen. I'm rubbing off on him, guys. It's
yeah,
you just
uh,
wait. in about 2 years, it's gonna be worse.
So you have Schaefer doing these early experiments. Later on, another guy, one of his colleagues, a man named Bernard Vonnegut, discovers that you could also use silver iodide, and that was even more effective in initiating ice formation within cloud seeding techniques.
You said his name was Bondigut.
Vonnegut, yeah.
Vonnegut. That sounds like a German supervillain name.
Yeah. This guy was of German ancestry. Yes.
Now my question is, okay, because you said the first guy was American, worked for
Yep.
General Electrics, said, what's better than a microwave? Rain. Uh,
Right.
this other guy who's German, did he happen to be one of the many Nazis who came over here after World War II?
Good question. I'm
Because
looking.
we
No,
know if there's one thing the government loves more than making clouds and doping people up on LSD, it's it's giving Nazis a good job. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, no.
we killed your old boss. Now we're the new boss.
Okay, looks like he was born in the U.S.
Dang.
However, he had spent some time in Germany.
Ooh.
Where's the timeline on that? Uh,
Yeah. What year was he in Germany? Did he happen to know a famous guy with a mustache?
let's see. He was there in the 1930s.
I know it. I
Oh boy.
told you, if there's
Oh,
one thing that the Americans love more than those other things, it's Nazis.
gotcha. Oh, this is interesting. He's the older brother of the American novelist Kurt Vonnegut. If you've ever
You
heard of.
lost me at Vonnegut.
Okay. I've heard of Kurt Vonnegut. I'm trying to remember. Oh, he wrote Slaughterhouse Five.
Never heard of it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, Slaughterhouse Five is a very famous novel. So
I'm illiterate, so
yeah, okay, that's fair. Slaughterhouse Five, very famous novel written by Kurt Vonnegut. So Bernard Vonnegut is his older brother. That's kind of
Wow.
crazy.
So one brother chose an honest route of being an author, and the other one said, "You know what's cool to have on your resume? I make clouds."
Cloud seeding, right? So yeah. So cloud seeding eventually gets up to the American government and they develop it even further. So what they do is there's kind of two ways they did it. One way they do it is they would shoot cannons full of silver iodide out up at the clouds into the sky, and they would disperse it that way. The other way they would do it is they'd have flames planes fly over the clouds and dump silver iodide into the clouds.
Yeah.
And as things, if they went well, then the clouds became primed to grow ice crystals, which made it more likely to rain or to snow.
Well, I can tell you, from a non-science point of view, I think I know the reason why the clouds rain produce rain. If a guy pointed a gun at me, I probably would cry too. So like us pointing a big cannon at the cloud, are we really shooting things at it, or are we just like, hey, cry for me, you know, shed a couple water droplets. Come on now.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. So during from 1967 to 1972, the U.S. Launched a secret U.S. military program that actually went through several names. They didn't want people finding out about it, so they would change the name every few weeks to kind of keep it hidden from the American public. But the official name was Operation Popeye. And the goal of Operation Popeye was to increase the length of the monsoon season in Vietnam because when it's really raining and storming, that actually makes it very difficult for the communist activists in Vietnam to run their operations. And so they're like, hey, if we do this cloud seeding operation, then, that's going to make it harder for them to do their stuff.
Yeah, monsoons.
So from 1967 to 1970, they underwent this a series of either, again, firing cannons into the sky full of silver iodide or flying planes over. And they did this in Vietnam, they did this in Laos, and they did this in Cambodia. Again, the goal was to extend the monsoon season, which would make the roads muddy and difficult for the enemies who were using the famous Ho Chi Minh Trail, right?
Mm.
Um, it had a motto. So Operation Popeye, and again, we can debate whether the government was actually trying to be nice or not in this operation. Um, but several people in Operation Popeye is like, hey, look, we can bomb them, we can shoot them. That's kind of mean. So why not fight them with rain? Make it harder for them to move around. We don't have to kill as many people. So the motto of Operation Popeye was make mud, not war.
That is hilarious.
Now,
That
do
is
do we believe the U.S. government when they say like, "Oh, guys, we're trying to like save lives, we're
no,
trying,"
we don't believe him.
right?
But
So
give the guy who came up with the slogan a pay raise because that's make mud not war,
make mud, not war. Yeah, maybe that's a
and that
key.
can be taken several different ways. Make it rain so we don't have to fight. Instead of fighting with guns, why don't we mud wrestle? A bunch of options there.
Hmm. So you know, eventually, American journalists are in Vietnam. International journalists are in Vietnam. They're seeing planes flying over, dumping stuff. They're seeing cannons shooting stuff where there's apparently no enemy. So, people start to get a little suspicious. Interviewers are brought in. They're like, hey, generals, what's going on here? Why are you shooting these cannons? Why are you dumping stuff in the thing? And they're like, oh, we're not doing that. We're just doing, training exercises.
Yeah, totally.
Which worked for a few weeks, maybe even worked for a few months. But as this thing started getting to years, they're like, well, actually, United States generals, we actually see this being like a consistent and habitual point of action that you have been taking. And, more than $15 million of US tax dollars seem to be going into this mysterious project that you're not telling us about. Um, what are you doing? What is this? And again, denial. It's like, you're crazy. Nothing's going on. Eventually, Operation Popeye leaked to the public the name, and they're like, "Hey, yeah." They're like, "What's this Operation Popeye thing?" And
It's
they're like,
about spinach, guys.
"Yeah."
About spinach.
They're like, "Hey, that's a myth." There's like, there is no Operation Popeye. We don't know what you're talking about. Someone confronted President Nixon about this, right? And they're like, "Hey, President Nixon, what's going on over here?"
And
Uh,
he's like, Watergate. Let's go talk about that. Forget Operation Popeye.
Yeah, yeah. I know a lot of people call it this, but some people call this Cloud Watergate. Um,
Wait, are you serious? They called it Cloud Watergate.
yeah, because what happened is eventually later, this did leak to the public. This is after Nixon's out of office and everything, right? And actually, you know, sometimes we talk about powerful people being protected from consequences. Uh, a lot of politicking went into not prosecuting Richard Nixon for doing some of the things he did with Project Popeye. But
Well, I you could say it's cloudy with a chance of Watergate.
there you go, man. Yeah, we might have to make that a T-shirt. Look at that. so,
There you go.
so at a certain point, it leaked. Congress intervened, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, this exists." And the United Nations, which I make fun of the United Nations, but they were pissed off, and the UN was like, you guys making it rain more than normal. We have no idea what this is doing to the environment in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. We don't know like the long term effects of you guys doing this thing. We just launched a research panel and we found that silver iodide is really bad for fish and other wildlife. And you just been
Yeah.
dumping stuff for years from 1967 to 1972. What the heck, guys? And what do you think the United Nations did? Do you think they put some kind of strong things against the U.S., or do you think it's
No, because the United Nations is gay. They're a bunch of wusses.
so? Will is exactly right. The United Nations basically did nothing. They sent a very strong worded letter saying, "USA, stop being bad," and the USA is like, what are you going to do about it?"
Yeah, what are you gonna do, punk?
The United Nations is like nothing. So, yeah.
Sorry, daddy.
Um, I think the most significant thing they did do about it was later several United Nations members developed what was called the Environmental Modification Convention
Hmm.
in 1977. So about 5 years
Yeah.
after Operation Popeye ended. And they're just like, yeah, we're going to sign a treaty that we're not going to use any weather changing techniques anymore, and we want everybody to sign it. And Jimmy Carter was like, yeah, sure, we'll sign this thing. So Jimmy Carter actually had the United States sign on to the environmental modification. Sorry, I think I got cut off there. He actually had them sign off on the
Yeah.
environmental modification, and presumably the U.S. has been obeying it to this day.
But you
Have they?
folks know here on Beyond the Campfire, we know one thing. It's that daddy government does whatever daddy government wants to do. He doesn't listen to the other people. He does what he wants to do. He's his own man.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually lied to you, Will. There is a conspiracy theory element about this.
Well, I knew about the conspiracy theory element.
Huh? Oh, you already knew about it.
Yeah. I look up at the sky and I'm like, oh look.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. I hear what you're saying. Okay, so the conspiracy theory is the U.S. government not only was cloud seeding, but they actually also had other techniques available at their disposal. The theory goes that the government purposefully leaked Operation Popeye to distract people from the other weather changing techniques that they had. So they're just like, oh, everybody's going to be like, oh, they can make it rain, and they're going to be all focused on that. And then going to be like, oh, well, we found out about it. So we know everything now.
Yeah, the
Really?
government's good at one thing. It's distracting the American people. It's like, oh, you're fixing to find out. Here's an assassination attempt. Oh, you're fixing to find out war. Oh, you're fixing to find out we might just leak a little bit just to whet your appetite.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm not going to comment on any modern events, but the U.S. government has done it before, and they
Who
could be.
knows? They could be doing it again.
Yeah. So, anyway, to keep the episode in focus, many people have theorized that looking at weather patterns in Vietnam, hurricane activity did seem to actually increase during the Vietnam War, which was odd.
Yeah,
Do we have?
that's
Yeah. Now, some people will say, some government apologists will say, like, oh, well, weather's weird. So, like, that was just a coincidence. It's not necessarily anything the government was doing to control that. Um,
bunch of bootlickers.
who's to say, right? Um, we do have what's called chemtrails in the modern day, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
I actually don't have too many notes on chemtrails other than that's like kind of the modern cloud seeding theory. But well, I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
I mean, all I really know, I guess, about like you could even say like when you look up in the sky, from what I know, and this again not 100% research backed. This is just from my brain. Take it as you will. But from what I understand, is like the government is controlling our weather. Um, they're pumping certain chemicals into the atmosphere to make you more have allergies, have this, have that, have all these different problems, to keep you under their boot. And then, when you're sitting there kind of questioning it, because when you look up in the sky and you see planes, there are jet streams, where you see the little bit of stuff coming from jets, but that usually dissipates pretty quickly. But when you look up in the sky, you see these white streaks, and it's like, that's not normal. That's not what clouds used to look like in the 90s. And there's actually even theories to where they try to make people not think that make people think that those are what normal clouds look like. So, like if you look at the cover of the Cars movie, it's tire tracks in the sky, so it's kind of like to make you think it's okay, but it's not okay. So that's all I kind of really know is that they're pumping the sky and they're behind the weather and everything.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it's just like, I mean, at one point, people would have thought Operation Popeye was a conspiracy because it was a conspiracy for several years. Because people are like, come on, the U.S. government can't really control the rain, can they? And the answer was, yes, they can. And then it's like, well, then it's like if we can cause rainfall to happen, what other things are we causing? The U.S. government seems very willing to pour chemicals on other things. Who's to say, some stuff with chemtrails are not going on, right? Um,
Yeah.
I really don't have too much left on this episode. Again, like I said, it's pretty fairly straightforward. And again, the conspiracy part so much is not Operation Popeye, because Operation Popeye did happen and it was hidden for years. The conspiracy part of this is, what is the US government, or other governments for that matter, what do they continue to do today? And how much do we really know?
Do you think, Stephen, based off your research, you think the government's still doing it?
I think they're hiding something. Um, Now, are they hiding chemtrails? Is the chemtrail theory exactly correct? I'm skeptical, but I'm open, right? Because I tend to think like, hey, controlling hurricanes, I don't know about that. But then again,
Yeah.
I also would have thought that we couldn't control rain, but apparently, like, we have some ability to control rain.
Well, like what I would say is, again, this episode is more of a conspiracy, so this is more the way this episode is going to roll is, Stephen told you about is about Operation Popeye because most of the episode is about Operation Popeye, but it was to kind of lead into the conspiracy of is the government controlling the weather, and I think an example that kind of comes to my mind is we think about Hurricane Helene, right? She devastated the South. She tore through Tennessee and a lot of those areas they talk about them being targeted for smart cities. I know recently here in Georgia, I don't know if you've seen in the news, but there's a county in Georgia where there's this drought we had. I'm in South Georgia. Steve is in North Georgia, so he didn't really know much of the effect. But here in the South, we were dry for weeks. You know, um, like we had burn bans in almost every single county below the fall line. Um, and so uh, and so that's where you can say, okay, is the government controlling the weather to the point where there's not going to be any rain because they're not allowing it? And if you're like, why would they do that? Well, like I said, this county, they had these wildfires happen. Like there's wildfires all over South Georgia. And one of the areas that got devastated the most, they just got approved for a data center where the wildfires were. So it's a question of if the government's controlling the weather, we're starting to see these places where they're putting up smart cities or, even with now with data centers and all this, are they doing this because they're controlling the weather and they're trying to make that land better for them to just bulldoze it and put a parking lot? Or in this case, a data center? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, again, as technology continues to improve, right? Like one thing I found is technology that's been available to us now. U.S. government had it like 20, 30 years ago. A lot of times, in some cases, 40 or 50 years ago, right? And oh, one thing I found in my research, yeah, I can't believe I forgot this. With the hurricane theory, right? Obviously, everybody knows about Hurricane Katrina in 2005. During 2005, some federal investigations had begun that was apparently like showing some stuff within the Bush administration about 9/11, the war on terrorism, and like how some of that stuff got started and some of the things going in. As that investigation was getting deeper, Hurricane Katrina happens. And
Ooh.
the question is that a crazy coincidence, or is that the U.S. government using the hurricane technology they had back in the Vietnam War, if they did have it back then, is that an example of them using it again, just time, just this time on the their own citizens, right? And Hurricane
Yeah.
Katrina was odd because most hurricanes, like, we're usually well prepared for. Hurricane Katrina, we were not prepared for. Um, the federal government very quickly blamed corruption in Louisiana, which, granted, there was corruption in Louisiana, but also it's just like, again, the reason Hurricane Katrina was uniquely bad is it just seemed like a lot of stuff was missed or not seen that normally is seen when a hurricane is coming into town, which the conspiracy theory aspect of it, again, was federal investigations into Bush administration activities. All of a sudden, this hurricane happens that we usually are prepared for, but nobody seems to be prepared for this time. And the conversation shifts from that to conversations about corruption in Louisiana and the
Yeah.
hurricane and the Bush administration's support of the state of Louisiana. Oh, what a great president Bush is. He's coming in to help the Louisianans. And it's just like, well, is that the story or something else?
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, it really does make you kind of like if the government can control the weather, it opens up so many possibilities of things of like you said with Katrina, was Katrina the government? Was Hurricane Helene the government? Any major problem in the U.S. as a storm, is it possible that it's not natural? That the government is doing it to distract us, to hurt us, to push their agenda? You know, and it does bring a lot more questions, I think, than answers.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Um, so that's really all I have. If you had anything you wanted to add,
No, I don't got much anything else.
okay, I think we could probably wrap up there then. So,
All right, so
thank
that's all you got.
hmm
Well, thank you guys again for watching. And like we said in the beginning, make sure you guys follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Beyond Campfire. And look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's Superman. No, it's just the government poisoning us.